This is not a message for everyone. This is a transmission for the starseeds, for those of you who know or suspect that you are something different, something unusual, not of this place. These are the messages for you that I, as the host of the MaxAnte, are bringing to you. Don't expect anything here to make a lot of sense. Everything is entirely paradoxical and is for you to interpret and for you to discern what is true. Seven steps of being fully in the world. So we've already been looking at the first 4 steps, which we'll just go over them again because I've gone through them in detail in the previous episodes, which if you haven't listened to, I recommend that you go and do. So you can listen to these in sequence because this is a step-by-step process. So as we discussed, the first step is about being fully integrated in your body. And that actually really means being fully integrated in the world, even in the natural world, and as well the human society. So it's kind of broken down into those 3 sections. You want to be grounded in your body, fully empowered inside this physicality, because this is a physical experience, being here in this world. So being fully in the world is a physical experience, it's an emotional experience, it's a spiritual experience. It's multi-dimensional. So you are a multi-dimensional being. And so you can't avoid any of that. You can't actually separate. Like in our language, we've separated these terms of like physicality, emotional, like our emotional body, our physical body, our spiritual body. These are all like, they sound separate, but it's actually just all one experience of being here. The whole thing, even the world, we separate the world from us. It's all about these separations. And so the human society, the world, your body, your emotions, your spiritual experience, it's all one thing, being alive. You can't break it down. However, because we use this languaging, we do break it down. So in this first step that I discussed, that's where you have your major breakthroughs. This first step, like I said, I'd spent like 20 years exploring that. And so 20 plus years to just get here, because I felt there was a massive separation between me and the world. And I knew there was something wrong with that, between me and other humans, between me and nature. I needed to break through all of that. And so there'll probably need to be a lot of detoxing and a lot of healing. So all the healing that you would need to go through, which is synonymous with detoxing, because there's so much toxicity in the world. You know, you've been grown, surrounded by toxins, toxic environment, toxic food, toxic air, toxic water, toxic relationships, toxic people, just, toxic radio waves being beamed everywhere. Like your body is like a sponge in this physical experience. And so you've absorbed all of that through all the interactions with everybody and with the world. And that's why there's so many breakdowns and obstacles and difficulties in people's day-to-day lives. That's why they have so much trouble getting along, and why there's so little real, authentic, heartfelt connection. Well, that is happening, but why does it break down so often? Because of the toxicity. And so there'll need to be a lot of healing. And that's all encompassed in that first step. So once and I don't know how long that's going to take for you, like maybe it'll be really fast. But you see, it doesn't matter, because if you're trying to make it happen, we're going to talk more about that as well, this idea of you trying to make things happen. That's actually going in the opposite direction. This is a path of surrender, and there's nowhere to get. So while it's all paradoxical, it sounds like, oh, I want to have these breakthroughs in healing, in transformation, in detoxing. That's like somewhere to get where you're all cleansed, purified. It's not really like that. This is a process that's out of your control. There is no control here. Like I've said, there is no you. So this is a lot to absorb, and while it is a step-by-step process as well, these things can be running in parallel. So it's paradoxical. And the more you try to make it happen, the more you try to push yourself to have these breakthroughs, often the more difficulties that you'll have. I know that was the case for me. I think that's why it took me so long, because I was trying so damn hard to make it happen. But the other reasons, of course, was because I was actually in very difficult situations. So we're going to look at basically, the next step, the second step here in the process was about realizing that you're on a tour. And this is going to help in having some levity, having some lightness about the whole process, because this experience here, the tour in this world of Earth, it's a tour that you're here. It's not like something to get. There's nothing to get here. Like nothing. What is there to get? You think maybe you want to find your soulmate? You think you maybe want to make a $1 million, $10 million or whatever, get all these points together that everybody's obsessed with? You think it's because you think it's about being famous and having bestsellers and being in movies or whatever? Like, that's all a distraction. There's nothing wrong with any of that. There's nothing wrong here. It's a tour. If you want to explore those things and have those experiences, go for it. On your tour, on your safari. You're making it up. But then paradoxically, there's no control. So it's happening. There's a process happening here. And so that's the second step, is realizing this is a tour. Now the third step, the real emphasis, once you've had all of that, is to ongoingly experience joy. A joyous experience. And maybe you want to swap that word out for happy or being peaceful or harmonious. You find the right word for you, but you get the sense of what I mean. So now, because that is so important here, having this joyous, harmonious, loving, happy, peaceful experience, the world is in breakdown, and there's so many obstacles to this. And so obviously, that's not going to be happening easily most of the time, or a lot of the time. It could do. However, that is your orientation. You're going to be able to tell what experiences you're having if they are aligned with your unfolding in this world. So if your relationships aren't bringing you harmonious joy, if your work life, your career, the work you do is not bringing you harmonious joy, if where you're living doesn't make you feel just delighted and happy, then really look at changing these. This is a physicality, a physical world. You are in this body that can relocate. You can just get up. I know it sounds absurd, but you can actually just go and communicate, because you can use your mouth and talk, and you can say to everybody, I'm out of here. This isn't working for me. Or here are some things I need changed. You need to change all these. I'm giving you 48 hours or whatever. Like, just really start making a list of what it's going to take for you to have an ongoing joyous experience, because you can't fudge it. You can't fake it. You can't trick yourself into thinking, well, I kind of like this. No, you know whether you do or not. You know whether it makes your heart sing. It's just fear is in the way. This fear of like, oh, well, better the devil you know. There's other people with a worse off situation than me. Who knows even if I'll get something better? You see, all of this distrust in life. Does life have your back? Is life supporting you? Do you keep breathing? Do you keep having the resources of food and shelter? Yeah. And so, can you trust that if you let go of that which isn't working, new things will open and unfold? It might take some time. There's no guarantees about when this is all going to happen. And so, and I'm not telling you to just just quit everything tomorrow. It took me, I planned it for years when I did this. But I got real with myself. I got straight with myself. That the more I tried to fix everything, the more I was undone. See, this whole notion of that you can fix it and make something that when you are really authentic with yourself is broken, that's delusional. Really get real with yourself. So that's what that third step was about. And once you've transformed all of that and you've got that experience of joy, well, then the fourth step was about sharing that with others. So in the fourth step, you're having an ongoing experience, an ongoing authentic experience of joy in your life. You've gone through your healing, you've transformed yourself, all of these things, and now you're able to share that authentically. People sometimes get this around the wrong way. They just start focusing on helping everybody else, while they haven't gone through even the first step of getting grounded in their body and healing themselves and having a transformative experience. You have to go back to the basics. Get real. This is your experience here. This is your spaceship on Earth going through this tour. And because of all the mess that you are pushed through because of the social structure, a whole lot of interruptions happened in your process. It wasn't meant to unfold like this for you in terms of being so much difficulty, but there is a virus in the world. There's a virus here, and it's spreading, and it's been going on for a long time. This technological, egotistical virus that has spread through nearly all of humanity and throughout the whole world now. This toxicity that has gone and taken a seat at the very center of someone's being, of someone's mind. It's taken over. It's the one that whispers to you all the time about, negativity and how bad you are, how this isn't going to work, how you're hopeless, how whatever, all these thoughts. And even if it's not that extreme, maybe it's even more extreme than that. See, that's what this is designed to do. This virus, egotistical structure that's found its way into nearly everybody is to rob them of that joyous experience. You see, that's what the machine world doesn't want you to have. It doesn't want you to have an ongoing, organic, natural, joyous experience here. It needs to keep pulling you in the other direction. It's a different form of consciousness. The darkness wants people to spiral and have drama and difficulty, because that's what it feeds on. It feeds on all of that negativity and drama. Well, we're talking here about going in the other direction, because guess what? That one just isn't much fun. I don't care what you say. I don't believe there's much fun in that direction. Those guys might be having fun in their diabolical plans, but I don't relate to that. I believe that there's more fun, more joy, more positivity to share in the world when we go in the other direction, towards the light. Or whatever languaging works for you about that. So now we're really coming across this fifth step here. Because what is this fifth step? This is the awakening. So I said before that people primarily would be focusing on the first three, and then the natural outgrowth of that would be into the fourth step of sharing the joy. And that might be as far as somebody wants to go. Because this fifth step is a radical departure from all of that. This is a totally different direction. Now, because what is this one? This step is about complete surrender. This is where you recognize the destructive, distraction, dramatic nature of the egoic structure in the mind. It is the virus that you realize isn't really who you are. It's this little voice that keeps telling you everything, tells you who you are. It's not true though. It's not real. It's the personality construct that's fictitious, that was fed to you through media and all the other people told you who you were. What about when you arrived here in this world? Well, from my examination of things, it's certainly, and what they've shown me, the star beings, we don't arrive here as a blank slate. No way. Everybody that turns up isn't just like a little blob of goo. From my examination and what I've been told here as well by other wise humans, and also from my experience in exploring interdimensional realms, there's three things that happen at that moment of conception. There's the egg, there's the sperm, and there's the consciousness that arises. These three things come together and they produce a being that starts to grow. That consciousness that is coming through, that's coming from somewhere. It's not a blank slate. And then it arrives here in this world at this particular time when there is so much toxicity in all areas of life. And so this little being starts to grow and absorb the toxicity. It quickly gets injected with a whole bunch of vaccinations that are super toxic, designed to disrupt its energy field, so then it's hampered in its growth. It's fed a whole bunch of toxic foods that are basically further to get it out of alignment, and on and on. And there's even sort of dramas probably at home. It has some fearful interactions. Maybe not. Maybe if the parents are super loving, these things are going to happen. Even if you keep it, like with me, I kept my daughter away from as much of that as I could. I made sure that she had no vaccinations. As I watched her grow, she was one of the healthiest kids. She just never got sick, and everybody wondered why. And when she didn't, till she got to university, that she realized that it was such a massive issue. Well, I knew from the get-go that it was an energetic disruption to her growth. But unfortunately, I didn't really realize the major disruption, because that's really nothing compared to if there is massive disharmony in the home between the parents. So that definitely caused issues, because when there's when there's no harmony within the parents, within the home, within the school life, this causes further disruptions. So is it any wonder that the little personality that's grown has so many issues here, so much lacking in confidence, confusion, not knowing what to believe. And so it grows and grows, and it often makes further mishaps, further mistakes around choices in life, picking maybe the wrong profession, and basically there's nothing really wrong. It's just that it's not following a path of joyous harmony. That's why that third step is so key. When you realize that joy is your natural birthright and it's what you're here to experience, then you start choosing that. Everything is your litmus test against that. Is this person I'm having a relationship bringing me joy? No. Next, thanks. Is this job I've got bringing me joy? No. Next, thanks. Have that courage to step away. Life isn't just about welcoming things in. It's about letting them go. Hold everything extremely lightly and start to consider that the feedback that you're getting is actually life speaking to you through these other people. You see, it's not you against the world. You're not you against people. This is all one big thing. When somebody is being disingenuous or negative, or there's betrayal or whatever happens, this is actually the world speaking to you and giving you instructions about where to go. Never be afraid of rejection from others, and certainly never be afraid of you rejecting. Really start to step up into this. Start to consider that rejection can be your best friend, because it's an orientation into a new direction. Only our fixation with holding on and trying to keep everything going in our own imaginary mind of where we want to go. You see, that's the egoic structures whispering and telling you, no, we've got to get over here. We've got to keep driving this marriage in this direction. Got to keep driving this career in this direction. Got to keep driving whatever the project is in this particular direction. It's like you're imagining, this is where we're going to get. There's nowhere to get. There's only feedback. It's all about the feedback. And now in this process, it's about listening, tuning in. You're going to really start profoundly listening and tuning in to this feedback that the world is constantly speaking to you. It's like telling you, don't go this way. Now, there will probably be fear that might arise, like, oh no, surely not. Because maybe you're going to want to turn to and listen to the other humans. Why would you want to listen to the other humans? They're all confused. They're all egomaniacs. They've got this virus in them as well that's constantly whispering to them, that's trying to pull you in a direction that suits their ends, the ends of the machine consciousness that's trying to arise here and have everybody stuck in their web. You see, they won't want you to break free. You see, the other voice is trying to pull you into the direction of freedom, of the light. And it's doing that by revealing an authentic disruption in your daily experiences. Anything that is having a negative impact on you is telling you this is the wrong direction. This is not a harmonious direction for you to move in. And so when you start to examine that, now that doesn't mean that you have to just instantly get out of it, because that also might, if it's too quick, if it's too disruptive, there's no wisdom in that. You need to start bringing wisdom into your life. You need to start really looking and going, okay, what is the wisest course of action? What is the course of action that will lead to the least suffering here? Now, then you also want to get real about that, because sometimes you've got two things you're looking at. You're looking at, there's going to be massive disruption to all these people over here in these certain situations. But if I keep it going, there's going to be a massive disruption and impact in my own experience. When you have to face these two, always lean into your own experience. That's the direction to go in, because everybody else is confused. They're all confused, and you are now orientating yourself on the path of wisdom. And now you're learning to listen to the feedback of how life is revealing to you what is going to be the most joyous, wonderful experience to move into. And what is this awakening? Well, this awakening, you can take this as far as you want to go. Maybe that's as far as you want to take it, just like learning to listen, to feel into the nature that's whispering to you about where to go. Because you can completely surrender into that. Completely. You can basically start to live from that being your compass. Just allowing the world to be your teacher. There is no greater teacher than the world itself. Make nature, make all of human society, because everything is one thing. There is no separation here. And even your own inner voice that's telling you that, hey, this is not the right direction, or whatever. Listen to all of this, but understand that there are multiple voices speaking to you. Your body, your mind is like a receiver. It's like a transmitter. You've got a dial. Which stations are you tuning into? All of this needs to be examined. But basically the direction of awakening is an unfolding of a surrender into a letting go of the belief that you have control, that there is a you, that you've got somewhere to get, that you've got something to believe in. So this is what there is to let go of in the awakening process. That there is nothing here to believe in. That there is nobody to believe in. That there is nobody to deliver you the truth. That there is no special manual. There is no wise guru who's got the answers. That there is just an unfolding of nature. If there is something to trust in, because now you're thinking, well, probably like, well, what is there I can trust in? Start to trust in nature. Nature is still here in the world. They haven't got rid of it yet completely. The world is full of trees and parks and forests and streams and the ocean. And once you get enough toxins out of your system, you can start to tune into this. But there's so much more. There are obviously the practices, and they are hugely important, like the daily practices of energetic work, of meditation, of yoga, of qigong, of physical activity, of working out. All of these things, they get your body toned, they get your mind clear, they detoxify your whole experience here. And these are key steps, figuring out a daily practice for yourself that aligns you with nature, aligns you with confidence in surrendering and tuning in. This is such a key step. Is there anything beyond that? Absolutely. This is where the real breakthroughs happened for me. Because as I told you, I'd spent decades doing what I just described. And I really did believe that that was all there was to it. Because I drunk the Kool-Aid, that was all that you needed. But that's also a trick. You see, any time that we start thinking, oh, I've got it, I've got the formula, I know what there is to do, there's delusion in that, because that's also the ego is speaking. This virus of basically saying, I know what's up and I know where we need to get to. Keep letting go. Keep surrendering. Anytime you hear this is good, because this is further feedback. You know that there's something to distrust about that. You can go, oh, okay, well, how do I know that for sure? Have I tried everything? Have I really experienced all there is? Have I checked everything out from every angle? Probably not. If I haven't fully investigated, as in fully experienced, as an experiment. See, this is all experimentation. This is a laboratory here that we are in. Think of it like that. You're on a tour. It's a laboratory. It's here. Everything is here for you to experiment with and to explore. And so now you've got these energetic processes that you can work with in your body and in your mind. You can go and do retreats. You can go and do detox clinics. You can start eating extremely clean diet. All of these things are going to clean up your antenna so you can further tune in. It's going to help you with further surrendering. But what else is there? Well, once we start really diving into nature, it's unavoidable to start realizing that nature itself has these magical keys of awakening. And so, because really, all that you've known up until this point is what the human realm has created as a fantasy identity that tells you who you are. That is not who you are. It's just some delusional state of constantly whispering, telling you, oh, this is what I am. And then you join other groups and they've told you what you are. But nature has some other tricks. Nature can completely turn all of that on its head once you enter into the realm of the sacred medicines. They're called many things. The psychedelics, the entheogens. Look them up. There are many of these. And once you enter into this realm, then you start to realize that what all the other humans told you Well, that was barely the tip of the iceberg. You see, to really pull back the veil and see that there is so much more going on, this is a gateway. This is a path of awakening, because now you have totally, radically different tools. You have these access points that will become, if you have the courage to experiment and explore, they are undeniable. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Most interestingly, of course, is even if you, let's say, have atheistic beliefs, you have a belief that there is nothing here that is spiritual or cosmic. Enter into this realm of the sacred medicines and see how long you're able to hold on to that belief structure. This can tear through any egoic structure. And, well, not all of them. Obviously, there are quite a number of these different substances. And I had never taken a single substance for my entire life. All of my teenage years, nothing. All of my 20s, nothing. All of my 30s, nothing. And even for the first part of my 40s. It was only from that event in 2015, which I was desperately trying to avoid. You see, so how did this awakening process happen for me? And obviously it will be different for everybody. But I'm sharing this with you so you can get have some sense of what can happen. And most likely, the foundation that I'd set of roughly 25 years of daily meditation, tens of thousands of hours, had attuned my mind in a certain way. And yes, because I've been vegetarian and even vegan and all these things for all that time, so long, never drinking alcohol, all of that had attuned me and made this mind and this antenna very clear, a super, super clear receptor. It was like I'd been arranging myself for an event, like some kind of event horizon that I didn't even know was coming, but it certainly was. It was like everything had orientated all of my life to that event in Tulum in February of 2015. And I was desperately trying to avoid it because I programmed myself through all the ego structure that society had fed me that, substances, they're very bad. They call them drugs. Don't do that. And then on top of that, even like the cult I'd been in had told me categorically, never take anything. You can do this yourself. Just listen to the egotistical nature of that. This whole belief that, oh no, you can do it. You don't need anything else. Really think about, wow, okay. And there I was even trying to do a meditation practice that was about seeing through the ego and letting go of the beliefs in the self. That's what the Buddha said. But it was telling me, no, you can do it yourself. You. What a joke. No, true surrender is when you completely let go of all concepts, of all ideologies. You let go of even the belief that, oh, I can make this happen. No, it's surrendering, completely letting go. Letting go of the belief that even I can do this, because there is no I. There is no separation in the world. So now the world is the teacher. And the world is coming at me. And what is the world delivering? You see, now look at this. You're actually listening to this. You see, this is the world speaking to you. This is no coincidence that you've tuned into this message. I'm directly speaking to you as the vehicle from the other side, from the world. It's coming, it's a transmission from the natural world that's whispering to you, don't be afraid. Let go. Let go of all of these distractions from the human realm. Cross through this barrier and start to explore and experience something so profoundly magical that you won't be able to deny its power. And so for me, in 2013, was when I'd begun my journey in the world of exploring. And very quickly I came across these books, the most powerful books I'd ever read in my life, by an author called, he's not even real, he uses a pseudonym, McKenna. And his books on spiritual enlightenment, well, they started to tear my world apart, turn it upside down. I read those books through all of 2013 and all of 2014 as he clearly laid out a process of letting go of the egoic structure. What was the main technique? So up until that point, the only techniques I'd had were meditation, yoga, observing the breath, observing the sensations. Jed started to teach a process of complete surrender, of realizing that the world was the teacher, and here was a pathway for me to let go and surrender any ideas that I had of what I thought I had to do. No direction. I just started traveling randomly all over the world. I'd let go. Everybody had left. I'd lost all the people. I still had my 2 bags. It was just me and the world. And the world was, and everything that was suggested to me, all the invitations, I followed up. I started to live purely through the invitations. Somebody said, oh, why don't you go to Manhattan, move to New York? After, oh, why don't you move down to Mexico? Oh, why don't you go to San Miguel de Allende, this little town? Oh, why don't you go over here to Tulum? Oh, why don't you meet these people? And so as the months moved on, this process started to accelerate of constant synchronicity, where I realized that the world had become completely alive, that the world was taking me in a direction. And so that process through 2013 and 2014, there was another key marker. Jed spoke of not only the process of surrender, but he said that if you truly wanted to awaken, that you had to make a request, that you had to make a prayer to the universe and say that I want to awaken and know the truth, no matter what the cost. And there I was on a retreat in the far north of Canada, where I was surrounded by bears, eating 1 meal a day in the woods. And in the middle of the night, one night, I made that prayer. I'd been reading his book, and yes, I was terrified, but I knew that the old life was lived. You see, the old personality construct, it was done. It had outlived its utility. I'd only been able to take that personality so far. What was the point of trying to pull around a personality that was essentially in some ways broken? It had outlived its usefulness. And so all I wanted was to know the truth. I wanted a complete awakening, and I was willing to put everything on the line. See, that's how far you need to go at this point. Now, I'm not even recommending this to you. I'm just sharing what this step is about, because remember I said it's the first 3 steps that are the key. This is when it starts to get really out there. This is something that is probably, maybe, not for everyone. I can't speak to that. I don't know what your path is, but I knew for certain that the whole orientation for this life was this direction. And I must have had a sense at that moment even that life, that identity I'd clung to for all of those decades, that it was running out. Like sand in an hourglass, I had a sense that this version of what I thought I was coming to an end. And so I put it all out there. I said, take me all the way, even unto death. I need to see and confront the reality of this situation here. And so it was that after that request in the Canadian woods, life took me eventually. It took about 7-8 months. There I was in Tulum. I'd heard about this shaman, and I was very afraid because I'd never even taken anything. I'd never smoked weed. I hadn't had alcohol. There was nothing I'd had. And they were speaking of this substance that was, by the sounds of it, the most intense substance available. It's a form of DMT. Now, I'm going to be breaking down all of these steps in further episodes because there's a lot here. I'm just giving you the overview of what happened. Because this particular substance, DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is like nothing in the world. And there's actually even 2 forms of DMT. There's NN-DMT and there is 5-MeO-DMT. And what these people in this Mexican town where I was staying, and I was suddenly surrounded by them all around me, they were saying that they'd had this awakening experience. They'd had this ego death through the 5-MeO-DMT that had come from a toad, of all things. The Sonora desert toad, the glands on its back was a toxin. This is so peculiar. How could something in nature come in such an unusual package? And what they did was they didn't even harm the toad. The toad was fine, but they squeezed its glands, and out came this goo that they were able to crystallize, and then they were able to heat, and a vapor would come out and you breathed it in, and it did something to you. Well, I had no idea what they were talking about, and I was just telling all of them all they needed to do was meditate. Hey guys, don't worry about any of that, just meditate. And they were laughing at me. I was laughing at them because I thought that they were fools. I thought I had all the answers. And so at the beginning of 2015, there I was, and I was on this beach in Tulum. And on this beach in Tulum, I'd been trying to avoid meeting this particular shaman for all of those months. And then, lo and behold, he showed up. There were some people, and they directly came to me, and they said, well, we're inviting you to a ceremony with him on the weekend. He's only here for 2 days. I was only there in that little town on the Caribbean coast I was there for 5 days, and he showed up for 2. What were the odds of that happening? Well, I was already practicing deeply this path of surrender and following the directions, following the listening. And so it had become too obvious to me by then what was going on. Life was unfolding, and it was revealing the pathway forward. No matter what my ego was saying, it didn't want to do any of this. And yet, there was the request made. The prayer had been made to awaken. And it was clear that here was a step. That even though it was extraordinarily uncomfortable and way beyond my comfort zone, beyond anything I'd even known, that this was the gateway to something that I didn't understand. And this was not even your average shaman. This guy was very extreme. I had no idea quite how extreme he was, because when I went to him and I told him, look man, I've never taken anything in my life. All I've done is meditation. He just said to me, oh, well, this is going to help your meditation. And would you like to come first? I was quaking in my boots. I said, oh, okay. And so he just literally took me down to the beach. And there I was. And he had his little pipe. And he put the little flakes from the toad of the 5-MeO DMT that is only activated upon heating. And it swirled in this little white mist that I breathed in without realizing what was going to happen. And in those next seconds, I was completely gone. I was taken out of this dimension. There was a rupture in time and space. Everything fell away. And I was transported into something else, this radical experience of a blinding light and a deafening sound that snuffed everything out. I didn't know what happened after that. But what I didn't realize was what everybody else was seeing was they saw the body, this body that I had, collapse, fall down, and turn blue, purple, and green for close to 40 minutes. I'd been given a near lethal dose of this substance because he was actually known for doing this. And had some people died? Yes, they have. Some people had died on the kind of doses that I'd received. So, by all rights on that day, I died. Am I recommending that you look for a similar approach to awakening? Am I recommending that you find this kind of path, this kind of shamanic experience? Not at all. In future episodes, I'm going to go through in more detail what actually happened here and how this kind of shamanic experience is extremely dangerous. And I do not recommend people to go to this particular shaman. That's why I'm not mentioning his name. I don't recommend this kind of process of what I've just discussed here. And yet, very curiously, it was what I personally needed to go through. And how it was that I came back? Well, that's amazing. Truly a stroke of luck to be returned after such a near-death experience. Something came back. Something came back. And in that process, an awakening had begun, truly begun. I'd been pushed through the other side. They say that you should die before you die. And that's what had happened to me that day. And so after that, I was living in a very peculiar world, because now nothing truly made any sense. And I didn't understand what this ego was. My identity kept on collapsing. The old thoughts would arise and then they would just completely fall away. And I couldn't even believe them anymore. There was nothing there to believe. And then the next step, within weeks or days of that process, I'd found this group online that had read the works of McKenna that I spoke of, and they'd implemented a process. They are called liberationunleashed.com, a completely free organization that was willing to coach you into seeing through all of the delusions of your personality and to completely have you see that there was no reality in who you thought you were. Well, I contacted them and I spoke to the founder, this remarkable woman, and she simply asked me the questions that they ask. And within minutes, my entire belief structure in everything that I thought I was and that the world was collapsed. And there was nothing left there. There was nothing to believe in. There was only the world. There was only the breath. There was only being here. And that was the awakening. Now, I'm not saying that that's how it's going to be for everyone, but that entire process had me completely fascinated because the journeys continued on after that. That was like the next chapter. The old life, he had died. That guy who'd lived, all those decades, he was gone. Something else was here now. And then the transmissions started to come through. I had inklings of them before, but they were nothing like what was happening after that. And so it was that the whole orientation of life transformed. And that's when the real surrender, if I thought I'd been surrendering up until that point, that was nothing. Because now the surrender had a totally different quality. I was a living agent here on their behalf in the world to receive these transmissions and now share them with you. And so this is a sense of what awakening can be. And yes, we'll be talking more about this. But I wanted to share this with you so that you had a sense of what it might be like. What surrender can lead to. It can lead into a magical realm beyond this dimension, beyond anything that you can possibly know or imagine, where everything has fallen away, where you are left here in the world to be an instrument of awakening. That's what happens. You get transformed in an alchemical process that defies everything that the humans speak of. And nothing can deny that for you. And so, if this speaks to you, then consider that this is something to further explore. Realize that there is no rush, there is nowhere to get, and this is simply an opening, a pointer to further adventures to be had here. To a further unraveling, a further exploration, further experiments. It's not going to be the same for everyone, but maybe there is something here that speaks to you. If all that you are truly interested in is having a joyous time here, if that would be remarkable, if really the first step of healing and detoxifying yourself, if that what speaks to you, then follow your heart with all of this. This, as I've shared, is a step-by-step process. And so this might not be for you, this part. It doesn't matter. This is not better than anything else. This is not a better step than just being free and in the world and being joyous. Not at all. In fact, it might even be the opposite for some people. I knew for myself what was unavoidable. And I would say that I think that is how it is for some people. This step of awakening can be an unavoidable step that they know in their heart is something that they need to do. Then this is the most profound step. And it begins with you tuning in and beginning to listen and beginning to explore the world from a different perspective than what everybody else has said, that there's somewhere to get and something to believe in. This is about letting go completely and allowing the world to open and teach you what to do next.